Amy, welcome to the studio.
Thanks for having me.
Congratulations on the event. A lot of energy here.
Absolutely.
Have you had a chance to stop and actually take things in? What have you seen? Or you can't stop for a moment?
In my travels, it
Yeah.
has been so exciting to feel the energy and momentum of over 9,000 early educators, researchers, advocates, equity warriors here focused on what we need to do for young children and families.
Is there anything in particular that you've noticed or heard? Obviously, equity, major theme, major issue. Teachers and the professionalization.
That's right.
Very, very big. Anything that you're hearing?
I think just the relationship building and the opportunity to network. When I attended my first conference, I could not believe how many early educators I was standing with.
Yeah, it's an embarrassment of riches.
It really is, and I think the commitment to supporting our educators from classrooms all the way up through administrators to our elected officials, you can feel that here today.
So a big open-ended question before we get to some of the specific stuff, but I think it's a central one, and given your role, your views would be useful. Where is America on early childhood education? Hypocritical, committed, successful, lacking, aspirational?
I would say America is waking up around early education and childcare. I think
That's a good feeling.
it is a great feeling. I think we are coming close to a tipping point where it's not if we're going to do something, but it's really what are we going to do and how are we going to do it.
What do you think's the why? What's driving the awakening?
Our honesty about how expensive it is for families to find high quality early education for their children. I think the economic arguments that we've had for a long time. And I think growing our workforce to making sure that we have people who can do jobs that we haven't even dreamed of yet in the future.
Do you know what I'm hearing a lot about as well from the folks I'm getting to listen to is, as we all think about and worry about the opportunity gap and the inequality gap later in life, there's this sense that if we can attack that early on, if we can address equity and quality education, we can start to close that opportunity gap later in life by making the investment earlier.
That's right. Common sense tells us if we invest earlier,
Yeah.
we'll have a better chance, but the research tells us that as well. In fact, I was just on a panel with a woman who works in the innovation space, and she said the people who are going to be 150 to live to 150 have already been born.
Wow.
And I said, and you know what their parents are trying to do right now is find childcare. So if we are serious about having people who are going to live to be 150 have long, healthy, beneficial lives, we need to think about that right now.
So turns out you also have a day job. Maybe
do.
it's a night job. Maybe it's a day and night job. You are director of Early Education for All, a campaign of strategies for children. That campaign seeks to make publicly funded, high-quality early education available for all Massachusetts 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. That sounds like quite a challenge.
It is a challenge, and I think that's where I get the waking up. We started the campaign back in 2002, and I think to see the shifts we've seen with our elected officials, with the policies that they're creating, with the advocacy community coming together to really think about what it's going to take to best serve our youngest children, I've seen a tipping point. In Massachusetts, they've just passed a new education bill to make sure that districts have money to support young children across through 12th grade, and full day, high quality pre-K is part of that agenda.
So you see all levels. You see the education environments themselves and the teachers. You see the families. You see the higher education folks trying to bring in the next generation of teachers. You also see the policymakers. Is there a block in progress in any of those areas, or do you perhaps see better integration among those areas, and maybe what's going on in Massachusetts is an example of what's possible?
I think what we've seen are policymakers wanting to do the right thing, but we need to help with some of those solutions. So instead of complaining and talking about cuts, we have seen a shift in people's thinking about solutions. This is what we need, and not being afraid to ask for what we need.
So I read your personal mission, which is to work to empower early educators and help get them involved in advocacy, policy, and research. Maybe listening to what you just said, at first glance, one might ask, well, where are the children in that? But I bet you have an answer for that.
You bet I do. I think if we have confident, well-respected early educators who come into work every day wanting the best for themselves and the children they serve, we're going to see a trickle down And if children are in those environments and learning skills like empowerment and sharing and being kind to each other, we know those are the qualities that we want to instill in children early on, because the benefits that we get from that later make the difference. So I think early educators are the key determinants of what a program looks like, what it feels like. When parents report when they're visiting programs, they want to know how they feel when they walk in the door.
They're the linchpin.
That's right.
Amy, to close out, this is your last year as NAEYC president. It ends in June. I know you're not counting down the days.
No.
I know you're not. But what do you think your legacy will be? What do you want it to be?
I want it to be, I started as a preschool teacher and sat in many of the seats where people are sitting today. And now I get to be president of our largest membership association dedicated to early educators, children, and family. So I want to make sure people know that anything is possible and that there are people and mentors that want to help you along this journey, and that we are the linchpin to the future of this country.
Yeah.
And we need to invest in young children and educators to see our vision through.
Well, thank you. Thank you for coming by the studio. Thank you for the work that you have and continue to do.
Thank you so much.